Shout out to new member VEYO. Thank you for your support. It is much appreciated. Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is going to be an updated version of the S tier Hammerdin build. It will still be S tier. We've gotten it to a point where it feels really good and we were absolutely flying through empowered content. In fact, we cleared almost the entire echo web that you could get, doing over 140 echoes with it. With this, it will be buffed more than it was last time because we can now wear 5 Smite idols. We'll be able to wear 3 of the 2x2s and 2 of the 1x3s, which is 1 more idol than you could get before due to the new layout. So this build did get a slight buff in that sense. We will be doing more damage, and we will also be proccing more Smites. And we'll have more defense. Last time we were running this with a one-handed weapon and wearing a shield for a lot of block chance, but instead we're going to be dual wielding now, so you will take a little more damage. However, we're going to be leeching and having massive amounts of health regen by taking advantage of the new rings that give flat vitality and health regen, as well as the set Shattered Lance set that gives a lot of flat regen along with more increased regen based on how much strength that you have. This build is going to proc smites more often. They're going to hit harder. We now, since we are regenning so much life, are able to put more points into the damage side of smite inside of its skill tree, which is going to allow us to do a lot more damage. That will allow us to leech more, and then the health regen will basically always keep us at full life. And you're going to have a lot of survivability, and you're going to be able to clear maps really fast. You have full screen AoE with this build, as you can see in the gameplay. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how it all works. For skills, I'm running Smite, Hammer Throw, Lunge, Holy Aura, and Sigils of Hope. For Smite, we have this set up for as much damage as possible. It will be converted to Void in the Void Knight passive tree, but we're still going to get some lightning bolts, which will be separate from the Void Smite that we're doing, and all of it's going to give us a lot of hits and a lot of damage. We got 5 points in Sacrifice, so it'll do 250% more damage. This will cost 15% of our current health, but this is why we stack so much health regeneration, so that we replenish that really fast, on top of the fact that we'll have Void Leech, which will get some of that back as well. Then we got 2 points in Atonement for more base crit chance. We don't care about the cast speed because we're not actually casting it, it's just getting procced. We got 3 points in Conviction, so that costs 60% less sacrificed health. That puts us back down to about 6.5–7% of our current health being consumed every time that it procs instead of 15, which really makes a difference. And then 4 points in Deep Impact for 100% increased critical strike multiplier with it. 2 points in Blinding Flash gives it some blind chance and unlocks the Order of Lagan, which converts it to lightning. However, since we've converted it to void, the void will not convert to lightning, so it will stay void. This does, however, unlock Unbalanced Scale, which gives us 3 lightning bolts and adds more mana cost to it, and 2 points in Wandering Bolts allows the lightning bolt to attack more targets. Then for Hammer Throw, we have this set up to orbit around us and follow us as we move. We also get double damage from the hits with it and reduce the mana cost of it a little bit with extra projectiles, and then also increase the attack speed. We've got 5 points in Rapid Throw to increase that attack speed, 1 point in Winged Hammers increases the projectile speed, 1 point in Steadfast Path gives us a 35% chance to deal double damage. With 5 points in Zealot's Conviction, that's another 65% for a 100% chance that we'll always deal double damage with the skill. That basically means it took 6 points to get 100% more damage, which is a little ridiculous when you think about Rive Void doing 100% more Void damage with just 1 point. Then we have 1 point in Iron Spiral, which halves the number of extra projectiles, but they will now spiral around us. This adds a mana cost. 1 point in Hammer Vortex gives it to where they orbit us. So not only do they go around us, but as we move, they go with us. This also gives it another mana cost increase. 2 points in Catapult gives you 4 extra projectiles. That's halved, so you went from 1 to this brings it to 5. Halving it brings it down to 2.5. It rounds up. You'll get 3 projectiles every time that you cast the skill. And then 4 points in Ballista gives it more damage and reduces the cost a little bit for a final cost of just 5. The reason it's not any higher than that is the negative throwing attack mana cost that you can get on the rings. For Lunge, this is set up the normal way where you just lunge around, you get the initiative buff, you get 100% more armor, and you're invulnerable while you have lunged. 4 points in Into the Fray gives it increased hit area. 1 point in Double Strike allows you to have an extra charge. This does give it a more of a mana cost. 1 point in Deadly Aim gives it some base crit chance. 3 points in Tactician gives it more mana efficiency, as well as increases cooldown recovery so you can lunge more often. 4 points in Forge On gives you 100% more armor and stun avoidance for 2 seconds after lunging. 1 point in Unstoppable makes you invincible while you are lunging, so you can lunge through all the dots and damage. Initiative gives you 40% increased damage, and with 5 points in Avenger's Charge, 240% increased crit chance. Match that up with the 300% increased throwing and spell crit chance you get inside of the passive tree, and you're going to be having a very high critting build. Then we have Holy Aura. We've got 5 points in Shelter from the Storm. This gives us elemental resist and endurance. 3 points in Call to the Arms gives us some physical damage. 4 points in Strength from Afar gives us more throwing attack damage and stun chance. And 4 points in Expedite gives us more throwing attack speed, as well as a chance to get haste, so we have more move speed on hit. And then 4 points in Fanatism, so that we have 16% increased attack speed. And then for Sigils of Hope, this is used for mana regeneration. It also gives us a lot of armor and a little bit of damage. We've got 5 points in Iron Sigil, so we get 200 more flat armor per sigil active. We'll have up to 4 of them for 800 flat. Enduring Hope increases the duration by 10 seconds. We don't normally cast these at all. We'll be proccing them. They'll be insta-procced. When we kill an enemy, they'll have a 6% chance. 1 point in Tetragram increases the maximum from 3 to 4. 1 point in Meditation increases the health regen 100%, so that instead of getting 25% health regeneration, you get a 50% increase per one. So with 4 of them, that's 200% increased health regeneration, which is huge. Empowering Sigils gives you 30% increased damage per sigil. Again, you'll have 4, so that's 120% total. We've got 1 point in Word of Alacrity for cast speed and heal amount. They'll do a little bit of healing when we cast them. 1 point in Decree of Flame for increasing our fire damage. I believe it comes with 4 base, and this will add 1 more for 5 total. With 4 active, that means it adds 20 fire damage to your smites. Not a huge deal because we're not scaling fire with it, but it's a little extra damage. And 1 point in Last Wish, so that every time you get a kill, there's a 6% chance that you will spawn a sigil. Especially during echo clearing, this will usually keep you at 3 or 4 maximum at all times while running through. For passives in the Sentinel class, we've got 8 points in Juggernaut, 8 points in Fearless, 5 points in Armor Clad for that damage reduction, and then 1 point in Gladiator so we can dual wield. We've got 8 points in the Forge Guard with all 8 points in Weapons Master. This gives us 8 strength as well as some increased throwing attack damage. Remember, each point of strength will give us 6% more health regen, so that's worth 48% health regeneration right there. 22 points in the Void Knight. 5 points in Abyssal Endurance gives us health, void, and physical resistance. 5 points in Temporal Corruption converts Smite to Void and gives it 10 more damage. 8 points in Void Bolts gives it another 16 Void damage, so we'll get 26 added Void damage between these 13 points. And then 8 points in World Eater will allow us to leech 12% of Void damage as health, which really helps with offsetting that consumed current health amount that we have to deal with every time that Smite gets procced. And then we have 55 points in the Paladin, which is our mastered class, with 8 points in Conviction, 8 points in Defiance, 4 points in Failure, 5 points in Holy Symbol, 8 points in Faith Armor, 10 points in Holy Precision for that huge amount of 300% spell critical strike chance and throwing attack crit chance, which is huge for the build, and then 12 points in Reverence of Duality for that increased health, damage, healing effectiveness, and increased mana. For items and idols, so for uniques, we have the Shattered Lance, and we have the Fragments of the Shattered Lance, which gives us the 2-piece set. Both of them give you health regen and flat health regen, and then with the set piece you get 6% increased health regen per point of strength. We'll be running almost 60 strength on this build, so well over 300% increased health regeneration just for having these 2 items on. Last time in the last guide we were running a shield, so that is different. We won't be running block with this. The other thing that we're doing is stacking a lot of mana regeneration so that we can spam more hammers. This was to help with single targets that sometimes didn't proc Smite as much. Granted that the new setup lets you proc it more with the 3 idols and the 2 1x3s. However, just with a tier 1 affix on the helm, which tier 1's pretty easy to get, we had no mana issues at all whatsoever, single target or not single target. And we could even probably remove that because we had quite a bit of mana regen. If you do have the helm where you proc or gain extra mana on Smite use through that proc system. You don't have to run as much mana regen as we are here. I have quite a bit so that I could spam hammers as much as I wanted. I'm just going to hover over all of the gear real quick, but basically we have just a basic scepter that comes with adaptive spell damage. We have spell crit on it, spell damage. These are really low tiers. Gear's not super powerful. You can definitely do more damage than we're doing here. I have on the Solar and Plate. You do want to get the void damage with plus added spell void damage. This will really help how much damage your smite is doing. And then of course you want to try and get health regeneration up. With the helm we have the same thing. Tier 1 smite gain, tier 1 void damage, some health regen for both the flat and the increased. We've got a mana regeneration amulet. You want 2 of the coral rings. I only have 1, but we could get even more base flat health regen if we threw on another one. However, we did find one that came with tier 6 increased health regeneration, which ended up giving more than the 5 flat plus a tier 5, or I think tier 3, I think we had on the item before, of health regeneration. So this one ended up giving more, so we stayed with it. It also gave us some physical resist. And then for the gloves, more health regeneration and flat health regen. And the same with the boots. We ended up getting a tier 6 health regen, very basic rule. Nothing tier 7. Would have been nice to get some health regeneration. You can get well over 1,000 health regeneration per second, which will really increase the amount of survivability you have. But even here, with only 600 health regen per second and up to almost 800 when you have the sigils active, our survivability was almost to where we could stand in anything. The blood spirals were the only thing that just kept killing us, especially if you weren't paying attention and stood in 3 of them hitting you. And then for the idols, we have the 2x2s, which give you a chance to cast Smite when hit. We have 3 of these that you can fit in, thanks to the new idol slots, and then 2 of the 1x3s that give Smite more damage modifier. And so since we can fit 5 of those in, technically that's a whole extra idol, which brings this build up even a little bit more when it comes to proccing and damage. And then we have 2 health regeneration idols that also came with some void resist. For the character sheet, you can see we're not capped on resistances. When we do Holy Aura, it does help a little bit. It caps out the elemental, but we're still a little shy on physical and poison. For our armor, as we have the sigils go up, I'll go ahead and throw this in. We get to about 50% armor, which is a huge amount of damage reduction. We also jump up to 782 health regeneration per second, which is really big. And then not too much on the damage types, but again, we do have a bit of void, which is why we've converted Smite to void, was it's really easy to build that up, and that's going to allow us to do really good damage with it. And then the way that I like to run this build, I'm going to put Holy Aura on autocast, the same with Lunge, and then I'm just going to go ahead and you just cast hammers. It's all you do. You don't have to manually cast Smite. You don't do the sigils. You'll get that on kill. You just get as many hammers going as possible. Each hit's going to proc that Smite. You can see it's hitting between 15 and 20k on the training dummy. And remember, each one of these hammers has its own individual, like 22% chance on every hit they do to proc it. So when you have mob density, you have all sorts of void smites coming down just all over the place. It's a lot of leech. It's a lot of damage. There's going to be lightning bolts proc, and there's going to be all sorts of things. And that's all you do. You can see this, the mana stays full. It just, even on single target, you're not going to run out of mana. It's just very nice. You just kind of fly through them. You get some hammers, you run, cast some more, and that's the playstyle. And you just go through and you clear this whole AoE of everything. So speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some more gameplay. Hope the guide was easy to follow. Hope you have a lot of fun playing the Hammerdin. I have enjoyed it. We played it for 10 hours last night, and it was very enjoyable as we hunted through the new ecosystem. Alright, that's going to be it from me. As always, stay safe, travelers, and enjoy some gameplay.